So I'm here today with a wonderful, wonderful person. If you guys have never heard of Cameron Dobbs, you will today. She's terrific. I've known her for a few years now. She's an athlete. She's a journalist. She's so much more than that, though, and you will find that out today. But I just wanted to welcome you to The Merge, which is a platform that I've been able to create. And I'm so glad to have you on here. And we're honored to be here with you and spending time with you. So, Cameron, if you can, just introduce yourself to the crowd, to the peeps.
Thanks, Gio. I am so excited to be on The Merge. I love following everything that you're doing, whether it's with the podcast, your own training, your family, whatever it may be. So I'm just excited to be with you today and to catch up and to talk about more than that. And I'm excited. So a little intro, I guess, about me is that I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I played volleyball at the University of Miami. I also coached at the University of Miami with the volleyball team, of course. And I am a soon-to-be double cane. So I did my broadcast journalism degree in undergrad there, double minored in marketing and advertising. Basically, that means there is all creative bones in my body. I don't have a single bone of like math or science or any of that stuff. I am all creative through and through. And love broadcast journalism, love sports reporting, and so much so that I went straight into my master's, and I'm currently finishing up my master's in journalism. So soon to be double cane, but love Miami, and actually just recently moved back to Atlanta, but I will be back in Miami soon. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell, but there is so much more to that. So I'm excited to dive into it today on the podcast.
Well, that's awesome. I actually noticed since the last time I saw you, you look a little different. Are those glasses new? Are those new glasses you're wearing?
So they're not new. I've had them for a while, but going through my fourth concussion, I try to protect my eyes as much as possible. And so these are blue light glasses that I'm just trying to wear more often so that I can take a little better care of my eyes.
So actually, let's start there. Let's talk a little bit about that because I've had concussions as well. You know, I've had two myself, and people don't understand, like, unless they've gone through it. For the most part, the people that I've spoken to, they think that really only happens to football players or even soccer players, because, you know, since they hit the ball a lot with their head, they don't know that it's not just like, okay, you're back in 2 weeks and you can play again kind of thing. There's a lot of things that happen. I can tell you, for me, the last concussion I had was 12 years ago, and the first one was 3 years before that. And till this day, I had never really experienced a headache. Maybe, you know, I had a little bit of a headache, but I never really experienced the headaches like migraines and cluster headaches and things of that sort until I had my concussions. I know since then, my speech is a little bit slower. I don't talk as fast. I never was a fast talker, but I don't talk as fast as I did before. Sometimes it takes me a minute to process things. Lights bother me when they're too bright. You know what I mean? Even the sunlight, like if the sun's right over me, I'm like going like this with my eyes. So I know that there's been a few things that I've had to deal with over the years before concussions. Like, how the heck did that happen? Because it's not like you're wearing a helmet, right? So talk to us about that.
Sure. So my concussion history definitely goes back to 2018, I believe. This was my sophomore year of college. And my history at Miami, my career at Miami was already kind of chaotic, to be truthful. And so my freshman year was incredible. I came in, we had this awesome team that was truthfully like a program history making team, going to the second round of NCAAs, breaking records, incredible players on the team. And then my second year was, quite frankly, the opposite. So we had a ton of seniors graduate. We weren't playing as well as we wished. And it was just building a new team from the ground up practically. And so as that season started, I went in expecting to be the starter, the starting outside hitter. But that didn't happen. I ended up getting benched. I got beat out by a freshman, which was hard to handle as is. But I didn't want to stop there. And so I ended up switching positions to playing DS. And so that's pretty much going from someone who plays all around the court. If you don't know volleyball, outside hitters play all the way around. They hit on the left side. And then a DS, a defensive specialist, only plays in the back row. So I was only passing and digging. But I was playing and I was starting nonetheless. So Cameron Dobbs was happy as can be because she was on the court and contributing. But as soon as I got comfortable in that DS position, enter my first concussion. So during one of our practices at Miami, I was running after a shanked ball, which is a ball that's passed really, really bad. And little did I know my teammate was doing the same. So as this ball actually ricochets off of our ceiling and changes direction, my teammate and I changed direction, but that changing of direction was actually colliding into each other. So my head went into her collarbone and felt like I hit a brick wall. And that was my first concussion. So from there, I was out for about 2.5 weeks, had pretty much typical concussion symptoms you would imagine: headaches, dizziness, nausea, couldn't play, couldn't practice, couldn't really go to class, was confined to my room for about 2.5 weeks just to block out any sensory things, try to block out anything that could potentially stimulate me even more. But in 2.5 weeks, I came back and I was feeling better and I was playing again. And I actually switched positions once again. So this was now my third position in 1 month. In addition to a concussion, I walked into my coach's office, my first day of practice back, and just told him, Keno, you know what? I have already played 2 positions this month, and I'm willing to play another if that means I can contribute to the team by being on the court and playing. So the next day, I started training as a middle hitter. So I went from an outside to a DS to a middle. And if you don't know what any of that means, to put it maybe in some football terms, that's kind of like going from a wide receiver to like a kicker and then to a defensive lineman all in 1 month at the collegiate level and starting in every single one of them. So pretty mind-blowing, pretty chaotic, pretty crazy, hard to believe. I still can't even believe to this day that on this jersey that I got when I graduated, it says middle blocker on the bottom. That still blows my mind because I was an outside hitter for 10 years of my life. So it still is crazy. But continuing back to the concussion story, finished that season playing as a middle hitter, went into my spring season of 2019. And this is our off season, but we're still practicing. We're still training every day. We're still playing some matches and tournaments. And at the end of our spring season in April, we were so close to being done, like getting ready for summer training, finally about to be done with school, and enter concussion number 2. So in practice, once again, I was blocking and one of my teammates elbowed me in the head. And this gave me concussion number 2. And one thing about concussions, you mentioned some things that people don't always realize, such as maybe that volleyball players get as much or as many concussions as football players do, if not more. Yes, of course, soccer is a huge sport that gets them too. But another thing about concussions is that each concussion is wildly different. And not even just like each person's concussion, but even each of my concussions have been wildly different. So as I said, my first concussion I had in the fall had pretty much every symptom that you would think of with a concussion. But concussion number 2, when I got elbowed in the head in April, I only had dizziness. I only had vertigo. My crystals were not aligned, as they say. So I went frustrated through these 2.5 weeks again, knowing I couldn't practice, knowing I couldn't play, but I was still going to class. I just couldn't play because I had these vertigo symptoms, and that was enough to keep me off the court. But 2.5 weeks go by, finally get over this vertigo, finally get over this dizziness, and I'm back to training, ready for summer season, training, staying in Miami, doing classes, all that good stuff, working my butt off in preparation for my junior season. And junior season comes along, and I'm like, Cameron Dobbs, like top dog now. Like I feel like I'm feeling confident. Truthfully, I'm feeling confident. I feel like I kind of have this whole college athlete thing under my belt. Like I'm getting used to the scheduling. I'm getting used to time management. I'm getting used to traveling. I'm getting used to my coaches, my teammates, how our practices run, how just life as a college athlete continues day by day. And more than that too, I mean, I was going into my junior season as an athlete going into my senior season of classes. So I was ahead of the game in school. I was getting ready to graduate early And then once I graduated early, I would go and pursue my master's right away, going into my senior season. Then I would graduate, and then I would go play pro for a couple years. Then I would come back to the US and continuing broadcast journalism. And then I'd build my way up to ESPN. Like, I had a plan going into my junior season. I was ready to go. And so junior season comes along. We're at one of our first tournaments. We're here home in Miami, hosting the University of South Florida. And it's day 2 of this first tournament. I am pumped, ready for this year. I'm the starting middle blocker. And I make this sick block move to go block USF's right side, make my move over there, jump up high above the net. And the one bad thing about that block move was that my hands were just a little wide. And because of that, as the right side hitter from USF was hitting, she hit the ball, and at point blank distance, it nailed me in the forehead, hit me in the head, and bounced off my head and went and hit the ceiling of our arena. So pretty hard hit, if you could imagine, to bounce off my head from, 10 feet off the ground or whatever, and then go up and hit the ceiling of our gym. Like, pretty hard hit. So it's not like I got hit and was like, ow, like that hurt or whatever. Like, volleyball players also get hit in the head all the time. It's like with soccer players, they hit the ball, the soccer ball, with their head all the time, intentionally for soccer, of course, not intentionally with volleyball, but it happens all the time, and it's nothing that's rare. So when I got hit, it was kind of like no big deal. But knowing my concussion history, the minute I came down from that block, I knew something was off. And I was out of it. Like, I knew where I was. I wasn't unconscious. I was still standing on my feet, but I was a little loopy. Like, all my marbles were not there in that moment. I was just out of it. That's the best way to explain it. I was feeling out of it. And I remember sitting in that match on the sideline during one of our timeouts, and my coaches were speaking, and Lord knows I was not paying attention whatsoever to what they were speaking, because all that I was thinking about was, I'm the next person to get hurt on our team. Because during this time, we actually had this huge injury bug attacking our team of practically one after another. Every day we were stepping on the court and playing, someone was getting hurt. And I was sitting there realizing I'm the next one to get hurt.
Wow.
So the rest of that match goes by. I actually continue playing like a typical stubborn athlete, trying to appear tough, which that's not what tough is, newsflash. But continued playing the rest of the match. Did not have a great match, and I was not happy about that, but I was also concussed, which I didn't quite know, but continued playing. My trainer knew how I felt, so it wasn't like I was hiding anything either. But I went through the rest of that game, finished it, took my parents to the airport. We had this big recruiting thing at my coach's house, stayed through that, watched the football game, and got home that night around midnight. And that's when I started feeling worse. So before, like I said, it was just that feeling of being out of it. But when I got home that night, I started kind of feeling like I might have a headache. And that's when I texted my trainer and just told her, hey, heads up, kind of had a headache. I'll see you in the morning for treatment anyway, but just wanted to give you a heads up. So
let me ask you,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't mean to cut you off, but so you have the first one, you ran into your teammate's shoulder. The second one was an elbow, if I'm not mistaken. And this third one was because your hands were wide and then, you know, the ball hit you. So how long was the span between this first one and the third one?
It was not even a year. So
wow.
This was now my third concussion within 1 year. And I knew that was not good news. I knew that next morning when I woke up, I did have full-on headaches and I felt awful. And I went into treatment. And the minute I locked eyes with my trainer, I started bawling. And I am not one to cry. So that's like saying something, that I was crying. And I just looked at her, and I first was so frustrated because I didn't want to be hurt again. Third time in 1 year. And I'm having this, you know, going back to that beginning of my sophomore season, I was starting, then I was benched, then I was starting, then I was injured, then I was starting, going into April, starting, but then injured, coming back, starting again, but now injured. And there's so much more to that too, because it's not just starting and injured, it's starting, you get injured, then you have to rehab to come back. You have to go through the recovery and the healing process to come back. You have to earn your starting position when you come back. You finally get to be starting again. And then that starts all over again. And with this September 7th, 2019 concussion, this third concussion within 1 year, where I got that ball to the head, this was a 6-month recovery process. And
Wow.
4 out of 6 of those months, I had a 0% improvement level of symptoms. And so that means that for 4 months straight, I suffered severe headaches, severe dizziness, nausea, trouble sleeping, sensitivity to light, sensitivity to noise, irritation, brain fog, confusion, sadness, anxiety, and depression for 4 months with
Wow.
no improvement for 4 months straight. So every single day, someone would come in with a good heart, with good intentions, and ask me, Cam, like, how are you feeling? Are you feeling better? And for 4 months, I said, no, I'm feeling terrible. Thank you. Like, for 4 months, it was this terrible, depressing state. And I don't say that lightly, because I had depression. I was going to 3 different types of therapies. I was going to vestibular therapy. That's pretty much therapy for your brain. So a lot of ocular senses, ocular movements. One of my exercises that I actually had to do was just looking at a dot on the wall, 2 dots on the wall. And I would just have to look back and forth at these dots and move my eyes. I went from being this star student athlete and practicing training, lifting, and running for 4 hours a day to now going to only walking on a treadmill 3 times a week, if and only if my head and heart rate could stand it, at just 1 to 2 miles per hour. 1 to 2 miles per hour. If you don't know how slow that is quite literally snail's pace. People say that as an expression, but 1 to 2 miles per hour is quite literally a snail's pace. It is so slow. And one day I was going so slow that my trainer actually pulled me off of the treadmill and was like, at this point, you're going so slow that it's hurting your brain even more. And so I went from, again, being this star student athlete to barely being able to walk on a treadmill. And oftentimes I couldn't even do that. And so it was this just dehumanizing experience and season for me. I felt so pathetic and I couldn't do anything. In a blink of an eye, I had everything ripped away from me. And it was the hardest season of my life. And even when I was forced to medically retire 6 months later, it was not all rainbows and butterflies from there, because then I had this continued identity crisis of who am I if not a volleyball player? And now I'm transitioning from a volleyball player to a coach, which was a great opportunity. And I'm so blessed that my coaches gave me that opportunity to stay on with the team and coach. But it was so hard because I wasn't quite a coach, but I wasn't quite a player anymore. So I had this just tough time of transition.
Yeah. So before we get into your coaching career, which to me is just so amazing that you were able to do that, especially in the season that you're in where you're supposed to be an athlete. Like, you were the age, you were in shape for that, but life brought you a different avenue. One thing that I always appreciated about you is that I know those things about you now, but when you were going through them, I didn't know that you were going through all of that. And I would have never known that because of the attitude that you decided to put on, because you said you were going through all of these things and you had every right to feel the way that you felt because of the circumstance that was surrounding you at that point in time. But you would have never known that. And that's why it's so important that we connect with people. And it's so important that we don't judge people. And I'll say that because let's say you would have chosen the other route and you would have been woe is me or cranky, which you had every right to feel all those different emotions and act that certain way. People could have been saying, oh, Cameron's this, like, why is it that she walked in the room and she didn't even recognize me, she didn't say hi. Like the silly things that sometimes we as human beings fall into, that trap and that poison. But what people don't know is that you were going through so many different things that maybe your priority was not going into that room that had music really loud because your head was hurting and you're like, you know what, let me stay out here. And it wasn't because you were slighting anybody, but it was because that was what you were dealing with. You were dealing with depression. You were dealing with anxiety. You were dealing with the simple fact of I thought I was put on this earth to play volleyball. What do I do next? You know what I mean? And that's something that I think we all have to deal with, especially someone from an athletic background, which about that, listen, I was a middle hitter. Okay. And I don't equate that as being a defensive lineman. I would say it's more like a a blocking tight end. Okay, so that
I feel like they're more important than a blocking tight end. Because I get
okay,
that. I get
yeah,
that. But I feel like they're more important and they have more of a vital role. So I give them a
okay,
defensive
all
lineman.
right.
I give
You
them
know,
more credit than that.
all right, I'll take that. I'll take it. But one of the things that I've known from, because I played basketball. I also played volleyball, obviously in high school. But I played basketball in high school. I had a little stint in college where I got cut from a team, and professionally as well. And when I was no longer playing at that level, and I started going through injuries like fracturing my nose and concussions and torn ligaments in the ankle, I was like, okay, what's the next step? Am I just an athlete, or is there more to what I am? And that season can be so freaking scary because all you know is that. And then you have to really rely on all the other qualities that you have that you probably don't even know that you have, that'll push you through. And you didn't even know it, but you became a pretty damn good coach. So talk to us about that.
Sure. Well, I'll have to say, I mean, going back to even that season that I was injured and you mentioning how not everyone knew what I was going through and I wasn't posting about it or anything. And I'm very active on social media, but I was completely off during that time to, again, protect my eyes and protect any symptoms. It's not like I had anything great to share at the time anyway, just being in my bed 24/7. But during that time, you know, I tried to be as positive as I could. And it was hard because I was going through depression. My mental health was literally attacked because when you have a concussion, you're basically all the like chemicals and juices in your brain are out of whack and going crazy. And so it wasn't just like, oh, it was just hard to have a good attitude. Like, no, it was actually like psychologically hard to have a good attitude. But I tried as hard as possible to do that. And in those moments that I could go to church, I was never in the sanctuary actually for church. I was in the back offices and I was wearing sunglasses and earplugs and headphones and blocking any senses out of me. And I remember like Lewis, who goes to our church, he would see me and be like, oh, you're just like a stuck up movie star. And like would always joke with me because I was wearing these black sunglasses everywhere. I was like, no, I promise I'm just concussed and like so pathetic right now. But I tried to do what I could and I was still leading some groups. I was still doing Operation Christmas Child to the best of my ability. But eventually there did come a point where I had to literally jump off the face of the earth and cut off everything and literally go off the grid. So not only was I off the grid with social media, but I had to drop out of school. I had to go back home and heal and just stay in this dark room for 24 hours a day and break myself off from everyone so that I could do nothing for a couple months and heal my brain, which did, thank God, finally happen. And when that did happen, going into your conversation, I did become a coach. So when I went back to Miami in January, I talked with my coaches about medically retiring and I was forced to medically retire. But even though I was forced to do that, it was the right decision. I couldn't risk stepping on the court and playing again with the risk of potentially getting hit in the head again. Because at this point, I mean, it took me 6 months to go from playing on September 7th to finally running again on February 6th. It took 6 months to do that. And so what happens if I got another concussion? Maybe I wouldn't get one for a couple months. Maybe I would never get a concussion again. But what if I got it the first day that I went back and started playing? How long would my recovery be then? Maybe it would be a month, maybe it'd be a couple weeks, but likely it would probably be 6 more months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, who knows how long. And so I had to make these decisions that thought about my future of if I want to be a sideline reporter for ESPN, I got to be able to stand the big lights at games and stadiums, and I got to stand the crowd noise. And if I'm reporting in studio, I have to stand the LED lights that are in studio. If I have a son one day that's playing in the state championship football game, I want to be able to be there as a mom and stand the crowd noise and cheer loud for my son. So I had to make these decisions as a 20-year-old looking years in advance to my future, which was hard as is, going through everything emotionally that I was going through, to then have to put myself in this space where I had to make very important decisions at that time. But one of the easiest decisions I made was certainly to stay on with Canes volleyball and coach. And that was the coolest thing, just being able to be back around my team again, because for those 6 months, I was not allowed in the gym. I couldn't look at a ball going side to side. I couldn't stand the noise of a ball bouncing or hitting. Of course, I couldn't risk getting hit from a shanked ball, but I was finally back in the gym again as a coach, and I was just around the sport. And that was so just a breath of fresh air for me. So I loved every single second of it. It was the coolest experience to be able to coach from the sidelines and coach the University of Miami volleyball team, like pretty good team at this point. And that was just so fun. And it was fun to see my coaches from a different perspective, to get to learn them from the sideline at a new perspective I'd never had before, to really be able to see, you know, why do they tell us these things that they tell us as players? Why do we watch this film? Why do we do this drill? And really learn from a whole new perspective. So as hard as that transition was, it was such a blessing. And I am so thankful that all my coaches allowed me to do that.
That's a beautiful thing that, you know, I'm sure it was tough, like just imagining, because I'm going back in my mind of when I played on organized teams, and thinking of, okay, this guy gets hurt, and all of a sudden he's our coach. The guy that was our peer now is telling us what to do. I'm sure that must have been a really hard transition for you. Ultimately, you know, it probably worked out, but was there any like scenario where as a coach you had to lay down the letter of the law, and maybe one of your former teammates was like, I'm not doing that?
It was a really hard transition. It was terribly hard. I mean, there were the first months, truthfully, the first several months of transitioning from a player to a coach were like heartbreaking difficult. And on top of just that transition of chemistry and communication with your teammates, I was also having things what I felt were ripped away from me. So, I mean, no longer a spot in the locker room, and they wouldn't let me use facilities anymore, even though I was already healed. And just, it was like one thing after another, maybe not getting as much gear on firsthand, that I now had to ask for gear, and things that I never expected to happen. And so I was facing all these things on top of this identity crisis, and then managing the relationships with my teammates. And for me, and maybe this is just because I'm a girl or whatever it may be, but you know, those connections with your teammates as girls, especially as any friends of a girl, are very near and dear to your heart. And so transitioning now to a coach, there were a couple, not guidelines, there were a couple boundaries that almost had to be put in place, because there was this issue now of trust. And it was this thought of, she's no longer our teammate, she's now our coach, so we can't tell her everything, we can't invite her to everything. And it was just this hard time for me. I felt like I just lost like a ton of my friends. I remember the first time that I realized or found out that they had a group chat without me, like that I was no longer, because we have our group chat with all of our coaches, and then we have the group chat with all the players. And then I found out they made a group chat that had all of them except for me in it. And that was just like I know it sounds so like petty or small. No,
but it's tough.
And just someone who is going through this hard time, that was just like, oh, like I'm not a teammate anymore. I'm not a player anymore. And it was these things that, sure, maybe that's the reality of everything, but it was so hard to accept and to take in. So it was definitely a big growing experience, learning how to quickly manage these new types of relationships that I had with the exact same people that I had known for years.
Yeah. So it's beautiful how no matter what season you've been in thus far, you always find your footing. Where does that come from? Is that something that you learned at a young age, or is that something that you had to learn on the way, or in the midst of the moment? How were you raised that way? I'm curious, because not everybody, especially at the age that you are, not everybody has that outlook on life.
Well, I would say it's a little bit of all of the above, because growing up, I would always, going to club tournaments, going to practices, and having all these camps and important things that I had to go through as an athlete. My parents were always giving me pep talks. Always had a pep talk from the parents before I got out of the car, when they were dropping me off anywhere, even going to school, like always had a pep talk from the parents. And some days more than others, I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I should. But, you know, if my parents are listening to this, they can attest that it has sunk in. Even if I didn't appreciate it in the moment, I have learned so much from each one of those pep talks, and it has stuck with me. And one of the things that stuck with me was play where your feet are. That is one of the things that my mom would always repeat to me: play where your feet are, play where your feet are, play where your feet are. And growing up, you know, I heard it and it was great to hear, but it didn't really click with me until I went through this season of my life. 8 years later than the first time I had first heard this saying, play where your feet are. And so when I was injured, you know, going back to that conversation you were saying of how I was going through this terrible time, but I tried not to show it. And maybe it wasn't necessarily faking it till I was making it. It was just trying to be positive and trying to be a light, and knowing that my injury that I have is, besides the sunglasses and the earplugs and the headphones, it's a hidden injury. You don't see me walking around on crutches. My brain is messed up. You can't tell that from just looking at me. And I can't tell what you're going through. Maybe it's mentally for you too. Maybe you're struggling with family things. Maybe it's a relationship thing. I can't tell that from looking at your outside. And so I'm going to make sure my first interaction with you is positive. Maybe I'm struggling and maybe it's really hard, but I'm going to start off with a positive interaction. And I kind of look at every season of my life like that too. Yes, it may be hard, but I'm going to play where my feet are. And during that time I was injured, or even before that, you know, if I'm playing on the court, if I'm starting as this athlete on the volleyball team at Miami, I'm going to play where my feet are on that court. And I'm going to be the best volleyball player I can possibly be. But if I'm benched like I got my sophomore season at that beginning of the season, if I'm benched on the sideline, I'm going to be the best cheerleader on the sideline. Like, I am loud. I'm obnoxious. I love cheering my teammates on. I love hyping people up. And so I'm going to be the best cheerleader on the sideline. I'm going to play where my feet are. Now, if I'm on the sideline as a coach, I'm going to continue playing where my feet are, even if I'm not playing at all, because I can still do my best and be my best wherever my feet are, no matter what and no matter where. And that's how it is with any season of our life, whether we're athletes or not. Like, I promise you can relate this to any aspect of your life. If you're single, I'm single as a Pringle. If you are single, like right now, I am currently sitting in my bedroom at home. So and I'm working on my capstone. I'm working on finishing my master's. I have my own podcast. I have my own company. Like, I am pursuing so many things right now as a single woman at 23 years old. So what good is it going to do for me to worry about my singleness? Like, no, I'm just going to play where my feet are. Right now, I'm on a podcast with you, and I'm going to worry about that. Like, I'm not on a date. I'm at home in my slippers. So I'm going to play where my feet are in my slippers on this podcast. And I'm going to do my best and be my best where my feet are, no matter what and no matter where. And I'm telling you, you can relate it to anything in life, any season you're in. But it's just being intentional about living a life full of living, no matter what the circumstances, in any and all circumstance. And I think that has so much power to it, of just being intentional of the places and the positions you're occupying. Because I don't think any position will limit your impact or your purpose, no matter what it is, no matter how good, no matter how bad, whether you're on the top of the mountain or deep, deep, deep low with depression in the valley. I think you can make an impact wherever your feet are. So I always say to play where your feet are. It's not to be where your feet are, because I don't just want to be where my feet are. I want to play where my feet are. I want to do something about it. I want to compete. I want to challenge myself. I want to improve. I want to play where my feet are. And I don't want to stay where my feet are either, because staying where your feet are won't get you anywhere. You got to play where your feet are in this moment, because playing where your feet are here could get you 10 more steps down the road. And that's so important, so important. And that's definitely what I've learned through my life as an athlete, and just continuing going through this whole medically retiring, changing seasons of life, and learning more about being intentional in the moment.
Cam, that's so good. That's so good. And that's the difference between, and it's just, I'm being blunt. There's people that sit on the sidelines and watch, and it's not because they don't have the ability, they just don't have the capability. Meaning they don't take that step, whether it's because of fear, whatever the case may be. And then there's other people that decide, wherever I'm at, I'm going to decide to take those steps, and I've told you this in private, but the people need to know this as well. I think that you're going to accomplish so many things. I think this is just the start of your career and all the things that you will accomplish. Like this season of your life that you just are kind of coming out of volleyball. That's going to be a blip on the radar. But play where your feet are. It's so funny how our parents tell us things that we kind of just toss it by the wayside. But as we get older, we realize, wow, that really had a profound impact. Maybe if imagine how much more I could have done if I actually paid attention to what they told me. And now you have your podcast, which I just saw a recent episode you had. I can't remember his name, but I know it was a college baseball player. It was awesome. That was a really good episode, and I'm going to continue watching, because that's the first one that I've seen of yours, and continue supporting that. But another thing that you've done recently, that actually you've done it more than once, and I'm glad that you have a heart for that, is the Operation, I think, Christmas Child. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
So talk to us about that, because I really love the heart that you have, not just for journalism and sports and all of that, but the heart that you have for people.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, even off of that note, I am the biggest people person ever. And I just love people. I love surrounding myself with people and challenging myself with the people that are in my corner, but also just talking with people and helping people out. Like anything with people, I will be there. I am an extrovert through and through. Like there's, I think, a reason why I'm in sports reporting and I host a podcast and I do everything I do with speaking engagements to hundreds and hundreds of people at a time, is because I just love connecting with people. And one of the cool things that I've been able to do these past couple years is Operation Christmas Child. And Operation Christmas Child, I didn't start it. Everyone always thinks that I started it just because I have such a big impact in it, but I did not start it. It started in 1993, I believe, by Samaritan's Purse, which is run by Franklin Graham, who, if you know the great Billy Graham, that is Billy Graham's son. So he started Samaritan's Purse, that started Operation Christmas Child. And basically since 1993, millions on millions, possibly even billions of shoe boxes filled with gifts, toys, hygiene items, and more have been sent worldwide to kids in hard to reach places every single year for Christmas. And so growing up, from the time I was practically out of the womb, I pretty much did this because I had two older siblings that were in school before I was. And my schools that I always went to growing up always did Operation Christmas Child. So growing up right away, I was doing Operation Christmas Child, packing a box every year and sending it off to these kids worldwide. Now, when I got to the University of Miami, after doing this for 18 years straight, I didn't do it my freshman year, and it just felt odd. It felt different and I missed it. And so year 2 at Miami, I decided to bring Operation Christmas Child to the U. And I just figured, why not? I was on the student athlete advisory committee. I think maybe at that point I was already on the executive board of it. So I was running a lot of this, communication and community service type events with athletes. And I had a ton of connection with athletes. Obviously I was one myself, but I was also president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And so I decided, let's do Operation Christmas Child. Like, why not? It's fun. We'd have a great time with it. It's a good time. And we'll see what we can do. Who knows? So we start off this first year, and I think our goal was like 250, maybe nice. Even that, maybe 250 boxes. And at Miami, we have about 400 athletes, give or take a few. And so I was like, look, that's not even every athlete doing a box. Like, I think for first year, I feel like we could hit 250. I think we could do that. And the first year goes by. We come in, like, we weren't very prepared for it. I think we started maybe in October. The boxes are due in November. And everyone fell in love. Like, we started getting so competitive. We're all athletes. We're all college athletes. And then it gets to the point where, like, oh, football did 50 boxes? No way. Like, volleyball and soccer are going to do 52. And like, we just started getting competitive with it. And that first year we blew past our goal and we did like 356. That's and beautiful. So it was incredible to be able to do that. So year 2 comes along and we were not finished with just year 1 and doing that many. So I think year 2 came along and I believe we set our goal for 350. So it was like about what we did the first year, but it was higher than our goal the previous year. And we wanted to see if we could do it again. Same thing happens. People just start obsessing over it and getting so excited. And so year 2 comes along and we completely blow the school out of the water. And I think we did like 500 something. And it's like, wow. Are you kidding me? 500. And at this point, we don't only have like the athletes involved, we have students involved at the University of Miami, we have the football coaches' wives involved, we have the community involved. Like everyone is starting to get excited about Operation Christmas Child. So year 3 comes along and we are still excited. We start earlier and earlier as each year goes by. Like we're announcing in August now, getting ready for November. My room gets filled with crayons and chalk and Dollar Tree orders and Amazon orders and shoe boxes, like up to the brim of my room, just accepting all these donations. And so year 3 comes along and we're pumped, we're excited, we're ready to go. And then COVID hits and we're like, okay, we're like, all right, we should probably scale this back a little. And for the longest time, we didn't even know if we'd be able to do it. Like we didn't know if Samaritan's Purse was going to be doing Operation Christmas Child because we're sending these boxes worldwide. Like we don't know what the guidelines are going to be. But long story short, they were able to do that. And we joined in and we set a super low goal. Like we went back to the beginning because not only was it a tough time financially for a lot of people, but we didn't have like any of our leaders on campus to help with this because everyone was doing school remotely.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is just going to be me. Like this whole project is going to be me this year. It's going to be so hard. Like we have a couple other athletes that are going to be able to help, but it's going to be a tough year to do it. And we're not meeting, like as athletes, we weren't allowed to really meet with any other teams on campus. Everything was closed. Everything was shut down. We didn't have a building to work with. There wasn't like a drop-off point we could really do. And so we set our goal back to the beginning at 150 boxes after we had just done over 500 the year before. Wow. And so we go into this, and I think actually correcting myself, I think that second year we did, I don't know, 4 concussions at this point. My brain's a little off. I feel like the second year we did like 686. I feel like if I'm remembering correctly. And so this year we come in, and maybe that's all off too. We're going to stick with the original. We did 500 second year, going back to that, continuing now. Okay. So this third year comes along. We're struggling with COVID, trying to figure everything out, set our goal for 150. And it was like no boxes the first couple weeks, like no one was helping. And so we're like, all right, 150 is going to be a stretch. We're going to see if we can even do that. But before you know it, people just got involved and people started Venmoing, whether they were in Miami or not. I mean, across the country, people started sending in money donations. And I was just shopping at the Dollar Tree every single day and buying out their entire toy section to pack all these boxes. And then we set a new goal for 500. And we blew past that. And we ended up doing, I think in this year, it was 687, maybe, I think, for year 3. And so wild, that actually got us featured on CNN. I was featured as a difference maker on CNN, HLN, and hundreds of TV affiliates across the country that year for doing Operation Christmas Child. It was insane. It was wonderful and crazy, but awesome. And so year 4 comes along. And this is my last year leading it at the University of Miami as a student. And so I'm like, we're going big. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I already knew when we had just done it the year before, 1,000. 1,000 is our goal. We're going big. Like, it's going to happen. This is my last year doing it. I'm getting everyone involved and we're going to make it work. So year 4 comes along and it is super slow. Like, it is pulling teeth trying to get people to help and donate. And I just like, for me, in those 5 months of planning, I am just stressed to the T. Like, this is not going to happen. And I'm so competitive that I was just like, we have to beat the year before. We have to beat the year before. And before you knew it, traction started catching up. People got involved. People started donating. Every single week went by and we were getting thousands and thousands of dollars and hundreds of boxes. And before you know it, we surpassed our goal of 1,000.
Let's go.
We actually hit, believe it or not, we actually hit 1,506 shoe boxes.
Wow.
Yeah. 1,506 shoe boxes. And this is 1,506 kids around the world getting possibly their first Christmas gift they have ever received. And more than that, Samaritan's Purse is also a Christian organization. So they're not just getting a Christmas gift, they're actually getting the chance to hear the gospel too, which is just insane. So it was crazy. It was awesome. This year we had Miami, of course, involved. We had FIU, we had UCF for the first time come in. And it was just incredible. So the coolest thing being able to lead that and just get the community together, even in hard times as a country that we're facing, like we were all able to just join together and serve these kids worldwide. And it's the best Christmas spirit you could possibly get. And it's so fun. So I've had the honor of leading that as a project leader the past 4 years, and it's been insane.
Well, listen, Cam, if you decide to continue doing that or whatever you want to do, just know that right now on this podcast, I'm guaranteeing that my business, we're going to go ahead and link up and partner up with you and do this. We currently do stuff for our community every quarter, and we choose different organizations to partner up with. But for sure, around Christmas time, we want to do something with you. So just keep that in mind.
Yes, and we got it on record. We got it on record. So
yeah, I can't back out. I can't back out now. So listen. Let's do some rapid fire. I want to ask you 3 questions. I've been thinking about, what can I ask her? Things that we don't know. And people might want to know, because I did get some questions, when we were posting on our social media, some people were excited. But rapid fire. So question number 1. First off, are you a pizza fan? Do you like pizza?
Fan. I do like pizza.
Good. So pineapple and ham on a pizza or not?
Truthfully, I have never tried it.
What? You've never tried that before?
I do not believe I have ever tried it. That is the truth in this rapid fire.
You've never tried pineapple or ham, or that combination together? That combination
together.
Okay.
But I think it belongs. I think it belongs. I think you can do whatever you want with your pizza. So I feel like if it tastes good to you, like, I think you're thriving. I mean, pineapple is fruit, so it's healthy for you. And we put meat on pizza. Like I put prosciutto on my pizza, and it's to die for. So it's, ham is very similar. It's that salty taste, that bacon, pig taste. So I think it belongs.
Piggy taste.
I can't specifically say I've tried it, but I think it belongs.
So we definitely, next time you're in Miami, all right, Susie and I, we're going to take you out to have some pizza, and you got to try it. Like, it's not my favorite, that combination, but I'll eat it. And there's nothing wrong with it. Pineapple's my favorite fruit, and I love ham. I'm not a big fan of the combination per se, but we definitely, next time you're back in the city, we got to take you there.
Sounds good.
All right. So if you're down for, like, if you say people are, whatever you like on your pizza, go for it. Are you that girl that like adds ranch to your? Have you seen that before? That they'll dip their pizza in ranch? Have you done that?
Yeah, that's a move right there.
That's risky,
like, I don't. I'll only do it if it's like we got a DiGiorno pizza like in the oven, like that type of deal, and it's just like a cheese pizza and you dip it in ranch like that. It's not like I ask for ranch at restaurants, but it's a move. It's good.
Yeah, so I'm not a ranch guy, but I've seen, like, the high school that I went to, for some particular reason, it was like a tribe of women that, like, it seemed like every girl at the school would do the same thing. They'd get a napkin and they'd pat down the grease of the pizza. Because we used to get, I went to a charter school, and we used to get Cece's Pizza. If you've never had it before, so you've had it, okay?
Yeah.
So we would get that delivered to the school, and all these girls, I guess it was too greasy, so they'd get a napkin, they'd pat it down of the grease, and then they'd put ranch. It's like, wait, hold on, like, if you're gonna pat down the grease, why add the ranch to it? So I just found that,
everything in moderation. It's balance. It's balance. It's no grease, but then you bring back the ranch. It's balance.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So my other one that I got for you is this. If you had a time machine and you only had one choice of where to go to, now you can come back. You have the option of coming back to present time. But if you only had one option to go to, would you go to the past or would you go to the future? And why?
Okay, easy answer for this. I knew my answer right when you started this question is I would go to the 1970s. And because I want to live in those disco days. Like, I swear that I was born in the wrong decade, because like, give me Earth, Wind and Fire, give me Casey and the Sunshine Band, like, give me Kool and the Gang. Like, I want all of that. And I want to experience that, like going to the roller rink and dancing to those songs as if they just came out. Like, I feel like that would be just incredible to experience. So 1970s, easy answer.
That was okay. So we're kindred spirits because so my wife always when we're in the car together, she's like, okay, can you please play something that's after 1994? Because most of my music, the music that I like is from back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, easily past. Like, I don't want to see the future. Like, I don't want to know if we live in like some dystopian created world where like zombies are running I don't care about that. Like, I want to know, like, I want to see my parents when they were teenagers. I want to sneak and see them and like see if my dad was really as strong as he said he was. I want to see my grandparents like when they're younger. Obviously, like, if I had the knowledge on, like, I don't know, Outkast is gonna come out with this song 10 years from now. Maybe I'm the one that can invent the song. I don't know. Like, I was trying to like go back in time and see all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we're definitely.
I feel like you had a lot like more special answer than I did, because you were like, yeah, I want to meet my parents and my family and like my grandparents, and I was like, I want to go to the disco and party. Like,
well, listen,
I would like to meet my parents too, but I just really want to live in that disco age.
Listen, I picture you wearing those bell bottoms with the what they call platforms, those thick
dude, heel. I wear that now, so imagine what I would wear back then. Like, are you kidding me? I have jeans that are bell bottoms. I got the platform shoes. I got the go-go boots. Like, I would thrive. I'm telling you, I would thrive in the 1970s.
So when I was a kid, in the 90s, there was a bunch, like, all over the city. There was a lot of skating rinks, and now I believe there's just one. So if you want to go to a skating ring in Miami, like, you literally have to drive it seems like an hour to get to it. But I remember back in the day, even in the 90s, like, they'd be playing songs from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and then you'd have all the lights and people would like dress for the occasion. So definitely I'm more of that retro vibe. Vibe. So the last question, and we'll end with this today. How would your ideal guy look? Like, would he be taller? Would he be shorter? Is he an athlete?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I think I lost you for a minute there, but I got the gist of the question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. I hear you.
Okay, awesome. So my ideal guy, I say easy answer, which probably sounds like so bad, but easy answer. So my ideal guy, first and foremost, would definitely be tall. I'm sorry to all the short dudes out there. That's just not my thing. I apologize. Like, I am like 6'1", 6'2" as is. So I gotta have a guy that's like at least 6'4".
So okay? So that's the thing. Like, so the other day you were telling me you're 6'2", and I disagree with you. I do not think you're 6'2", because I am taller than you. So it's either I am 6'3" all of a sudden, or you're not 6'2".
It's so funny because as college athletes, you always get measured, and every time you get measured, it's a different thing. So I think at Miami, I was 6'2". That was the number I was given. Sometimes
shoes on or off?
That was shoes off.
Really?
But sometimes I think flat-footed, I'm more 6'1". But anyway, regardless of the fact, I gotta have a guy that is like 6'4" or taller. For sure gonna be an athlete, just because that's like more than the fact of looks or things like that, like bodybuilding stuff. Being an athlete is so much of my life, and that's like where all of my life lessons have come from. And so just being able to talk to athletes, that's where my heart is. And so having someone that can connect with me on that athletic level is important to me, and it's valuable to me. And just being able to relate to each other in the stories we've been through and the times we've had, that's valuable to me, and I value those conversations. So definitely athletes. That would be my type, is an athlete who's tall. And then more than that, going more towards characteristics that are of course more important, or that you gotta be ambitious. That is like one of the top things on my list, is you gotta be ambitious, because I am single. I've been single.
No
No
scrubs.
scrubs. I've been single for 23 years and I've been thriving, let me tell you. So I am an independent woman. Like, I have so many things going for me, and I know that, and I know my worth. So I gotta have a man that knows the same. And more than that, you got to be thriving on your own, doing your own thing, and together we will come together as a power couple. But like, I don't need someone who is obsessed with me every single second of the day. I want you to be doing your own thing, thriving in your own way, impacting the world for Jesus Christ, because Christian is obviously top priority. And I want someone who's bold in their faith too. So like, I want to see you living out your dreams, pursuing God as hard as you can, having bold faith and being ambitious on your own. And then together we'll be a power couple, and you're going to be tall and I'm going to be tall and we're both going to be athletes. And that sounds great.
So that's my buddy that messaged me a few days ago, that's 5'9", I have to break the news to him.
Sorry, dude. I'm sure you're a great guy, and there is going to be a perfect girl out there for you. I just don't believe I am her. I'm sorry.
You know what though? I like that, because you are assertive and you know what you want. And that's good. That's a good quality to have. People made fun of me because, well, first off, younger Gio wasn't always necessarily doing the right things. Okay. I had a little stage. But anyway, when I got serious, I actually wrote down on the list what I wanted. And it was both what I wanted, like the superficial things, if you will, height, looks, that kind of thing, hair. And then there was the other side of the form where I put like the qualities, family oriented, all that kind of stuff. And I'll never forget, I wrote that list February 23rd, 2010. And when I got engaged to Suzette in 2015, I gave her that paper and I said, look, you're all the things that are on the list.
Oh my
so,
goodness.
Hey, if you're assertive and you know what you want, you'll get what you want. So that's awesome.
For sure. And I think a lot of that too, I mean, people all the time say like, oh, throw out the list, where it's like, yes, okay, throw out the things that are superficial. But I think, having a list, that's just, to me, in my perspective, that's my standards. And, no, it's not necessarily you have to be 6'4" or taller and you have to do this or that and the other. But, be ambitious and live a life that's full of living. Play where your feet are in everything that you're doing. Like, every opportunity is an opportunity to improve and to impact. So that's how I live my life. And I just want someone to do the same. And so I think it's natural to have this list, whether you write it out or not, because you're wanting to have high standards and you're wanting to go after something that's great. Because I literally heard this morning, that you want someone that is great. I butchered the whole line. You want someone, I heard it just this morning, so it's fresh on my mind, or it's new to my mind, but you want someone that is good for you and great for the kingdom. And you want to pursue someone that is great for the kingdom and good for you. So yeah, mic drop right there. And that's not
Listen, we need to do this. We definitely need to do this again. We're going to have you on pretty soon. We'll figure it out, because I know our people, they love you. I got a lot of responses from when we started posting on our social media. A lot of the ladies, because most of our listeners are males, and it's based on the fact that I think most of the guests that we have had on are men, and to be able to have somebody like yourself, athlete, assertive, outgoing, doing the things that you're doing, not only for yourself, but like you mentioned, for the kingdom. Like, I honor that and I admire that, and we love you here. And for those of you for those of us that don't know where to find you and how to connect with you, where can our listeners find you? IG, YouTube, like where can we look for your content?
Yes, I am literally on all of the socials. So TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, like you name it, YouTube, I am there. So my name, of course, is Cameron Dobbs. You can pretty much find me through that on anywhere. Specifically, my Instagram is @cam.dobbs, CAM.DOBBS. That's my Instagram. I'm very active on it. So I always say the doors to my DMs are open. If you want to talk any more about something that maybe I said that stood out to you, or maybe you're facing depression, maybe you're facing anxiety, or a part of my story related to you, I would love to talk more. I also do have my podcast, the PWYFA Play Where Your Feet Are podcast. It is streaming on all platforms, and I go more into my story there and have a lot of awesome guests on there too to talk about how they play where their feet are in their seasons of lives and how they impact others and the communities that they're in and the places that they're in too. So on
And
all
you just went
platforms.
viral, right? You just went viral with there was like a workout thing that you did.
Yeah.
Tell us
So
tell me about that.
I went viral on TikTok, which is so funny because if you asked me like a month ago about TikTok, I would probably just kind of brush it off because I've had a TikTok for a couple months, but like I have so not done anything with it whatsoever. And then I randomly, like last month, decided to post one of my workouts that I was doing because I was just goofing off one day and I was listening to like hype worship music while I was working out. And it was I Thank God by Maverick City, which if you haven't heard it, it is an absolute banger. Like,
yes, it is.
So fun to worship to. And so while I was working out, that was playing, and I just scrapped my workout and decided to do a workout that kind of matched the lyrics and the beats to I Thank God by Maverick City. So I was doing it on my own, like threw up my iPhone 8 Plus, and like this isn't even a new phone. It's a terrible camera, but I threw it up, decided to film myself, edit it together, and posted it on TikTok. And now I'm like 140,000 views later, like 7,000 or comments or like whatever it might be, but I went viral with it, which is crazy. So now you can find all of your worship workouts on TikTok at Cam Dobbs with 2 S's because someone already took Cam Dobbs with 1 S. So much hate. But yeah, so now I do worship workouts on TikTok, which have been super fun. People give me requests all the time and I just do them. So I think I have like maybe 7 or so posted. I got Hillsong, Elevation, Kirk Franklin, like so many good bangers on there that are so fun to work out to. So yeah, they're on there and people like them and they want me to keep posting them. So I'm a people pleaser and I love my people. So I keep posting them, obviously.
Oh, well, you know what, Cam, we love you here. And we're so glad that you hopped on the Merge with us, which it's a platform where we can get along with other people like ourselves and just promote change and talk a little bit about our journey. So thank you so much. We'll do this again. And guys, make sure you follow her on social media. If you want to rewind this and you forgot her Instagram handle and all of that, make sure you rewind it. But we'll definitely do this again. Stay blessed, everybody. See you soon.
Thanks, Gio.
My pleasure. Take care.